I don't think they're going to lose to Illinois. They're one of the best teams in the country, let alone the Big Ten. Easily the Big Ten West.
Champaign. They'll let you know.
Well, Wisconsin gonna Wisconsin. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the College Football Hangover. And following last week's very emotional episode, we're going to go on a different route, the usual route that we go on, where I'm going to make fun of teams that are really good and probably a lot better than this team. But hey, why not? It finally happened. We were wondering when the bottom was going to fall out and when we were going to have the traditional crazy weekend of football that we usually have in college football. I know the week before I talked about it there, but Georgia did lose, and that was a huge shock to the system. But it's a different story now because 4 teams that were ranked lost, and 3 of them lost to unranked opponents. The only one that actually was playing against a ranked opponent was Michigan, losing to Big Ten East foe Penn State, but we kind of all knew that was going to happen. Tick-tock, Harbaugh. Tick-tock. But it started early in the day, and it started at 11 a.m. kickoff. It started with Wisconsin going up against Illinois in what seemed to be the usual matchup. Illinois, traditionally not a good football team. It's just facts, all right? And, there's always Wisconsin, and they had Heisman hopeful Jonathan Taylor, who I still think has a solid Heisman case. I hate the idea that after one bad game that you're completely taken out of the Heisman race. It's silly, but then again, the Heisman is a joke trophy anyway. What? It's lost its prestige. 30-point favorites Wisconsin Badgers coming into Champaign, the 6th-ranked team in the country, easily the best team in the Big Ten West, and they still found a way to lose. And the reason I said at the top of the show, Wisconsin going to Wisconsin, it's happened before. This isn't the first time that Wisconsin has had all this hype, all this buildup, and then they lose. It's seemingly... It's like the new version of Clemsoning at this point. And don't believe me? Look at last year when they played BYU at home. Now, I know BYU has a history now, for some reason, to beat good Power 5 schools, but they should not have lost to BYU. Speaking of losing to BYU, if you listen to the Loud Sports podcast, which if you watch this show, I'm sure you kind of do. I feel like there's got to be some sort of overlap. Paul Rubidoux, now granted, you got to listen to the segment. There's a link in the description to listen to the full segment, but Paul Rubidoux, my co-host in that show, had Boise State going to the playoff, and I think somebody should tell him. Boise State didn't look very good against BYU, and now it's almost, I said Wisconsin going to Wisconsin, and they're kind of like Clemsoning. I think Boise State's doing that as well. They've had this happen to them a few times recently. Usually, Boise State was a lock to win close games when they matter most, and somehow they lose to BYU. And again, I want to reiterate, yes, BYU has a crazy schedule. They're an independent. But who were their signature wins this year? I mean, yes, they beat Tennessee, but that's really it. That's their only signature win. They didn't beat Utah. They just now beat Boise State. But before that, they really didn't have anything to their name. It says a lot more about Boise State. And then what else can you say? I mean, it's almost like losing to Vanderbilt. Oh, look who did that this week. Vandy. Taking care of Mizzou, and it's another team that I can't help but laugh at. When they left the Big 12, thinking they were more important than the Big 12, hey, I know how crazy this sounds. I'm fully aware of the situation I'm in. Don't bring it up. But when you talk about a team like Missouri, who did win their division once in the SEC, Nebraska won their division too, I'm just saying. There are 2 losses this season, Wyoming and Vanderbilt. How do you lose to Vanderbilt? If this were James Franklin Vanderbilt from a few years ago, I would totally get it because James Franklin's a very good football coach. But now, and you have a guy like Kelly Bryant on your team who actually openly admitted after the game that they weren't ready for Vanderbilt, which how can you not be ready for Vanderbilt? I understand they're a lower rung team in the SEC, but you are Missouri in the SEC East in the same division as Florida and Georgia. Not preparing for Vanderbilt's not doing you any favors. So there were a lot of upsets this week. A lot of the usual. Texas almost this close to losing at home against the crazy Matt Hatter, Les Miles in Kansas. Just, they couldn't quite do it. 50-48, they win that one. But because I thought that Texas was supposed to be really good. I thought that they were...
Longhorn Nation, we're back!
Yeah, not seeing it, not believing it. Oklahoma continues to roll. Since we're talking about Big 12 teams now, when we jump from Texas to Oklahoma, they continue to roll. And as I mentioned, Nebraska didn't play, so they can't lose this week. So as you guys know, I'm back to doing the regular schedule programming, none of this super sappy, sentimental stuff that I did last week. So let's go to the best of the week. So for the very first time all season, I am going to give an SEC player some recognition. I know it hurts me deep in my soul. Anyway, the LSU Tigers once again proved that they probably are the best team in the country right now. If I were to rank them, I'd probably put Ohio State and then LSU, but it's like up, they're neck and neck at this point. But Joe Burrow, I am not giving that guy enough credit. He absolutely brought it against Mississippi State. He was 25 of 32. 4 touchdowns, 327 yards, and he even did it with his butt hanging out. That is some impressive play, and as much as I hate to admit it, it's the best of the week. And all right, now I'm moving to Hack of the Week. And Hack of the Week, I think we kind of started the show with it, right? I mean, the Wisconsin Badgers are the Hack of the Week. Come on now, you're the undefeated. We've been saying it since after week 3, I think, that we're like, hey, the Big Ten West, it runs through Madison. I know it's only one game. There's still a lot left to play for, and they could still very easily win the Big Ten West. But how do you lose to Illinois? As bad as Nebraska is, they still didn't lose to Illinois. Thank you so much for watching another episode of the College Football Hangover. I love doing this show. I say that every week, but I mean it. And make sure to check out other shows on Loud and Opinionated right here on the YouTube channel. We got the podcast there, but you could also listen wherever you get your podcasts. Loud Sports, Backcast, Super Cynical Cinema, The Jake Williams Show. They're all there. And thumbs up this video if you liked it. Thumbs down if you didn't. I get it. And yeah, watch some football, you nerd.